I never thought my life would come to this. Standing in a crimson gown that clings to me like a second skin, under the blinding spotlight of a ballroom dripping with wealth and deceit. My name is Jasmine, and I've spent years as the perfect ornament on my husband Victor's arm, a silent trophy in a world of power and privilege. But tonight, as I stand on this stage, heart pounding like a trapped bird, I feel the ground shift beneath me. The murmurs of the elite crowd turn into a roar, their hungry eyes stripping me bare, and Victor's voice cuts through the chaos with a chilling announcement that shatters everything I thought I knew. What has he done to me? And how far will this twisted game go? Picture this: a chandelier so massive it could rival a small sun, casting golden shards of light across a room draped in velvet and secrets. That's where I often find myself, standing on polished marble, my heels clicking softly as I move through a world that isn't quite mine. My name is Jasmine, and at 36, I've carved out a peculiar kind of existence as the shadow to a man who commands empires with a single glance. Victor, my husband, is a force of nature, early 40s, sharp-jawed, with eyes that cut through pretense like a blade. His presence fills every space he enters, and I'm always there beside him, a silent echo in designer silk. Our life is a parade of extravagance, a carousel of events so exclusive that even the air feels curated. Auctions where ancient relics change hands for sums that could buy small countries. Private dinners where billionaires murmur over plates of caviar, their laughter as cold as the champagne in their flutes. Secretive unveilings in hidden venues, sometimes sprawling estates with gardens that whisper of old money, other times underground lairs where cigar smoke curls like a living thing. I'm there for all of it, dressed to perfection, my hair swept into intricate styles, my makeup a mask of flawless elegance. I smile, I nod, I play the part of the perfect companion. But I've learned to live with the stares, the way their eyes, those of the elite, the untouchable, linger on me. It's as if I'm another artifact on display, something to be admired, coveted, but never truly understood. Victor thrives in this world. His charisma is a weapon, his confidence a fortress. Every word he speaks is measured, every gesture calculated to draw people in. I've watched him work rooms countless times, his hand resting lightly on my lower back as he guides me through crowds of tailored suits and glittering gowns. I'm his ornament, his polished gem, and I've grown used to the role. But beneath the shimmer of it all, there's a hollowness that gnaws at me. A quiet unrest I can't quite name, though it lingers like a shadow behind every forced smile. My marriage to Victor is a beautiful cage. Gilded, yes, but a cage nonetheless. I remember a night not long ago, at an event in a mansion so vast it felt like a labyrinth of wealth. The air was heavy with the scent of aged whiskey and exotic perfumes, the kind that cost more than most people's homes. I stood there in a gown of midnight blue, the fabric clinging to me like a second skin, accentuating every curve in a way that felt both powerful and exposed. My laughter rang out as I mingled, but it was empty, a hollow sound that didn't reach my eyes. I felt like a porcelain doll, fragile and posed, my every move watched by those around me. Victor was in his element, shaking hands, whispering deals, his voice a low rumble that carried authority. I caught glimpses of him through the crowd, before waking to the soft glow of dawn creeping through the floor-to-ceiling windows of our penthouse in downtown Manhattan. The city skyline glitters like a jagged crown of glass and steel, a silent witness to the life I've built with Victor. I'm already reaching for my coffee, the bitter warmth grounding me as I stand in our sleek, modern kitchen, the marble counter cold under my fingertips. The view is breathtaking, but my eyes are drawn to Victor, pacing near the living room, his phone pressed to his ear. His voice is sharp, almost biting, as he snaps orders about logistics, timelines, security, details I can't quite catch. He's more intense than usual, His broad shoulders tense under his tailored shirt, and I can feel the weight of whatever he's planning pressing down on the room. I step closer, my silk robe brushing against my skin, and try to catch his attention. "Victor, what's tonight about?" I ask, my tone light but curious, hoping to pull him out of his focus. He barely glances at me, his jaw tight, and offers a clipped smile that doesn't reach those piercing eyes. "It's going to be special, Jasmine. Trust me," he says, his voice low, almost a growl. "Wear the crimson gown I picked out. You'll see." There's no room for questions in his tone, and I feel a flicker of frustration mixed with something else. Unease, maybe, as I watch him turn back to his call. The crimson gown. I know the one. It's form-fitting, daring, the kind of dress that hugs every curve like a lover's touch, making me feel both invincible and utterly bare. It's a statement, a weapon of allure, and I wonder why he's so insistent on it tonight. The day slips by in a blur of preparation. My personal stylist arrives by noon, her energy a whirlwind as she transforms me into the vision Victor seems to have in mind. She works on my dark curls, letting them cascade over my shoulders in soft, glossy waves that catch the light just so. My makeup is meticulous. Smoky eyes that smolder, lips painted a deep, dangerous red to match the gown. The diamond necklace Victor insisted on sits heavy against my collarbone, its icy sparkle a stark contrast to the heat of the fabric as I slip into the dress. I catch my reflection in the full-length mirror, and for a moment, I don't recognize myself. I'm a siren, a sculpture of desire and power, but there's a nervous flutter in my chest I can't shake. What is this event? Why the secrecy? By the time we're in the car, heading to the venue, that flutter has grown into a storm. Victor sits beside me, his hand resting on my thigh, a possessive gesture that feels more like a claim than comfort. The drive takes us out of the city, to a grand old estate on the outskirts, its iron gates creaking open like the jaws of some ancient beast. The driveway is lined with towering oaks, their branches casting long, skeletal shadows across the gravel as we pull up to the estate. I step out of the car, the cool night air brushing against my skin, and I feel the weight of the crimson gown as it sways with each step. My heart is already racing, a wild drumbeat in my chest, as Victor leads me through the grand entrance and into a ballroom that feels like stepping into a painting of decadence. The chandeliers glitter above, the walls are lined with gilded mirrors, and the crowd, oh, the crowd, is a sea of wealth and power, their gazes sharp and predatory as they turn toward us. I'm standing near the stage now, a raised platform at the far end of the room, draped in black velvet and framed by heavy curtains. My pulse is hammering so hard I can feel it in my throat, and I try to steady myself, smoothing a hand over the fabric of my gown. Victor is beside me, his presence as commanding as ever, but there's a tension in him I can't quite read. He leans in, his breath warm against my ear, and murmurs, "I need to speak with the event coordinator. Stay here." His tone is clipped, leaving no room for argument, and then he's gone, weaving through the crowd with that effortless authority of his. I'm left alone, the murmurs of the guests growing louder, a low hum that feels like it's pressing in on me. I notice their eyes, those piercing, unrelenting stares I've grown so used to, locking onto me with an intensity that makes my skin prickle. It's not just curiosity this time. There's something darker, hungrier, in the way they watch me, and I can't shake the feeling that I'm being sized up, evaluated like some rare prize. Minutes drag on, each one heavier than the last, until Victor finally returns. His face is a mask, unreadable, his jaw set in a way that sends a shiver down my spine. Without a word, he takes my arm, his grip firm but not painful, and guides me up the steps to the center of the stage. The spotlights hit me like a physical force, blinding me for a moment, and I blink against the glare, my vision swimming as the crimson gown shimmers under the harsh light. I can feel the polished wood beneath my heels, solid and cold, grounding me even as my head spins. Below me, the sea of faces stretches out, a blur of tailored suits and glittering jewels, all watching with that same mix of curiosity and hunger I felt earlier. It's surreal, standing here, exposed in a way I've never been before, my every breath seeming to echo in the silence before the storm. Victor steps to the microphone, his posture straight, his voice smooth and commanding as it cuts through the room. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight's main lot is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. One evening with Jasmine. No limits, only for the winner. The words hit me like a punch, knocking the air from my lungs. My stomach drops, a sickening lurch, and I turn to him, my mouth falling open in shock, but his grip on my arm tightens, a silent warning to keep my composure. I can feel the heat of his fingers through the thin fabric of my gown, a tether holding me in place as my mind reels. What is this? How could he do this to me? I'm trembling, caught between disbelief and a raw, burning anger. But there's something else, too. A strange, dark thrill I can't name, twisting deep inside me. The room erupts into chaos, a bidding war breaking out with a ferocity that makes my head spin. Numbers climb higher and higher, shouted out in cold, detached voices. Hundreds of thousands, then millions, as if I'm nothing more than a piece of art, a rare jewel to be claimed. Men in tailored suits raise their paddles, their faces impassive, their eyes glinting with something primal as they vie for me. I'm frozen, my feet rooted to the stage, my heart pounding so loud I'm sure everyone can hear it. I want to scream, to run, to tear myself away from this madness, but I can't. I'm trapped in the spotlight, a prize on display, and the weight of it all is crushing me. The bidding finally slows, the numbers reaching a staggering height, and a voice cuts through the din, calm and authoritative, sealing the deal. I don't even register the amount. My mind is a haze of shock and betrayal. Victor's hand is still on my arm as he turns to me, his expression unreadable, and he nods toward a man stepping forward from the crowd. It's Edward, a figure I've seen at these events before. Tall, late 40s, with silver streaks in his dark hair, and a quiet intensity that always seemed to set him apart. His eyes lock onto mine, a storm brewing behind them, and I feel my breath hitch as Victor leans in to whisper, "Go with him. It's done." My legs feel like lead as Edward approaches, his stride confident, almost predatory. Yet there's a strange gentleness in the way he offers his hand. I hesitate, my heart a wild thing in my chest, but Victor's grip loosens, a silent command to obey. I take Edward's hand, his skin warm against mine, and he leads me off the stage, away from the prying eyes of the crowd, their murmurs fading into a dull roar behind us. We move through a side door, down a narrow hallway lit by flickering sconces, the air growing heavier with each step. My mind is racing, a tangled mess of fury and fear, but beneath it all, there's a current of something I can't name, something dangerous and electric that I'm afraid to acknowledge. He guides me into a private room, and as the door clicks shut behind us, the sound echoes like a gunshot in the stillness. I take a shaky breath, my eyes darting around the space, trying to anchor myself in the details. The room is dimly lit, a single amber lamp casting long shadows across the walls. Plush velvet furniture in deep burgundy sprawls across the center, the fabric looking soft enough to sink into, yet it feels like a trap waiting to ensnare me. A mahogany table sits to one side, its polished surface gleaming under the faint light. A crystal decanter of whiskey resting on it, flanked by 2 heavy tumblers. Heavy curtains, the color of midnight, are drawn tight over the windows, blocking out the world beyond, making this space feel like a secret carved out of reality. The air is thick with the scent of aged wood and something muskier, something that makes my pulse quicken despite myself. I turn to Edward, and a shiver runs down my spine as I meet his gaze. He's standing close, too close, his presence commanding yet oddly restrained, like a storm held at bay. There's a quiet power in the way he moves, deliberate and unhurried, as he steps toward the table and pours 2 glasses of whiskey from the decanter. The liquid glints like molten gold in the low light, and he turns back to me, extending one of the glasses. His fingers brush mine as I take it, a fleeting touch that sends a jolt through me, and I can feel the heat of his stare as he studies me. His eyes are dark, searching, peeling back layers I've spent years building up, and my breath catches in my throat under the weight of that intensity. "You're a true prize," he says, his voice low and deliberate, each word rolling off his tongue like a caress. A flush of heat creeps up my neck, spreading across my cheeks, and I hate myself for it. I take a sip of the whiskey, the burn of it grounding me for a moment, but it does little to quiet the storm inside me. My mind is a battlefield. Anger at Victor for orchestrating this, for reducing me to a transaction, rages alongside a raw, gnawing fear of what this night might mean for my marriage, for me. And yet, there's something else. A forbidden curiosity about Edward, about the calm confidence he exudes, the way he seems to see straight through to the parts of me I've kept buried. I want to hate him for being part of this, but there's a pull, an undeniable draw. I stand there, the whiskey glass trembling slightly in my hand, the amber liquid catching the dim light as Edward's words hang in the air. That pull I felt moments ago, that dangerous curiosity, it's growing stronger, clawing at the edges of my restraint. I set the glass down on the mahogany table, the clink of crystal against wood sounding louder than it should in this suffocating silence. My heart is a frantic rhythm, a caged bird beating against its bars, and I can't tell if it's fear or something far more reckless driving it. Edward steps closer, his presence a quiet storm that fills the room, and I feel the heat of him even before his hand reaches out. His fingers graze my arm, a touch so light it's almost a whisper, yet it sends a shiver racing down my spine. I should pull away, should scream at him to stop, but I don't. I can't. There's a part of me, buried deep beneath years of playing the perfect wife, that's waking up, hungry and untamed. His hand moves with purpose now, tracing the line of my shoulder, up to the curve of my neck, and I feel my breath hitch as his thumb brushes against the pulse point there. It's as if he's mapping me, committing every inch to memory with a reverence that feels both sacred and sinful. "You're more than what they see," he murmurs, his voice a low rumble that vibrates through me. His words ignite something, a fire I didn't know was smoldering inside, and I feel the weight of the crimson gown suddenly unbearable, a symbol of the life I've been bound to. My hands move almost on their own, fingers finding the delicate straps at my shoulders, and I let the fabric slip down, pooling at my feet like spilled blood. It's a shedding, a release of the polished shell I've worn for so long, leaving me bare in more ways than one. Edward's eyes darken, a storm breaking behind them, but there's no judgment there, only a raw, unspoken admiration that makes my skin flush with heat. The air between us crackles, charged with a forbidden energy, and I surrender to it, letting go of the chains of guilt and duty that have tethered me to Victor's world. Edward's touch becomes bolder, his hands guiding me with a confidence that's both commanding and careful, as if he's aware of the fragility beneath my defiance. The way he moves, the way he holds me, it's a dance of power and tenderness, a collision of everything I've denied myself. My mind swirls with a torrent of emotions, guilt for betraying the vows I made, desire that burns hotter than I thought possible, and a strange, intoxicating liberation that comes from stepping outside the cage I've lived in. I lose myself in the moment, in the heat of his breath against my skin, in the unspoken promises woven into every touch. It's a connection so raw, so unfiltered, that it feels more real than anything I've known in years, a stark contrast to the hollow perfection of my life with Victor. Somewhere in the haze, I'm aware of the camera in the corner of the room, its unblinking eye a silent witness to this act of rebellion. It's Victor's gaze, even in his absence, a reminder that this isn't truly private, that I'm still under his control in some twisted way. But right now, I don't care. I let that thought slip away, drowned out by the sound of my own racing pulse and Edward's whispered words, soft and fervent, praising the fire he sees in me, fueling it until it's a blaze I can't contain. Time seems to dissolve, the world narrowing to just this room, just this moment, where nothing exists beyond the intensity of what we share. A forbidden dance that teeters on the edge of destruction. When it's over, when the storm finally calms, I find myself lying beside him on the plush velvet of the furniture, my chest rising and falling as I try to catch my breath. The air feels heavier now, thick with the aftermath of what we've done. Edward's arm rests lightly across me, a grounding weight, but my mind is already starting to churn. As I lie there on the velvet, the weight of what just transpired settles over me like a heavy fog. My skin still hums with the echoes of Edward's touch, a lingering warmth that battles with the cold realization creeping into my mind. I sit up slowly, pulling the sheet around me, the fabric soft but insufficient against the sudden chill in my bones. My eyes dart to the door, half expecting someone to barge in, to shatter this fragile aftermath. Then I hear it. The slow, deliberate sound of footsteps approaching, each one a measured strike against the polished floor. My heart lurches as I see Victor's silhouette in the doorway, his frame filling the space with that unyielding presence I know so well. Edward shifts beside me, his expression unreadable as he rises. He gives me a subtle nod, a silent acknowledgement of the boundary we've crossed, before turning to Victor. With a curt dip of his head, Edward excuses himself, brushing past my husband without a word. The air seems to thicken as he leaves, the door clicking shut behind him, and I'm alone with Victor now, the weight of his gaze pinning me in place. I brace myself, my fingers tightening around the sheet, expecting a storm of anger or the sharp sting of betrayal in his eyes. I've seen his temper before, the way it can flare like wildfire, consuming everything in its path. But as he steps closer, his movements slow and almost predatory, I see something else, something I can't quite decipher. He sits beside me on the edge of the velvet seat, the space between us charged with an unspoken tension. His eyes glint with an emotion I struggle to name, pride, perhaps, or a dark kind of amusement. My breath catches as he leans in, his face close enough that I can feel the warmth of him, and then he smiles. It's not the warm, reassuring smile I've seen at public events. It's chilling, calculated, a curve of his lips that sends a shiver down my spine. His voice drops to a whisper, low and intimate as he murmurs, "Now everyone wants what I have." The words hang in the air, heavy with meaning, and for a moment, I'm frozen, my mind scrambling to make sense of them. Confusion swirls inside me, a dizzying whirl of questions. What does he mean? Why isn't he furious? I search his face for answers, but his expression remains a mask, impenetrable as ever. Then, like a key turning in a lock, it clicks. This was never about betrayal or loss for him. It wasn't about me stepping over a line with Edward. No, this was about power, always about power. Victor orchestrated this night, this twisted game, to elevate his own status, to make me the ultimate unattainable prize in the eyes of those who already have everything. I was the jewel in his crown, polished and displayed, and now, after what happened, my value in their eyes has skyrocketed. I'm not just his wife, I'm a legend, a forbidden desire that every man in that room will covet, but never truly possess. The realization hits me like a wave, cold and suffocating, and I feel a surge of disgust at being used as a pawn in his endless quest for dominance. Yet, beneath the revulsion, there's a flicker of relief. He's not angry. There's no rage, no accusations, Just this eerie satisfaction that unsettles me more than any outburst could. And, if I'm honest with myself, there's something else too. A lingering thrill, a dark undercurrent of excitement at the game we've played, at the way I've been thrust into the center of this dangerous dance. I don't regret what happened with Edward. I can't. It awakened something in me, a sense of agency I'd forgotten I could feel. For so long, I've been Victor's shadow, a beautiful accessory to his empire, but in that private room, I made a choice. I claimed a piece of myself back, even if it was under the watchful eye of that camera, under Victor's invisible control. The memory of Edward's reverence, the way he saw me, not as a prize, but as a force, still burns in my chest. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment if you enjoyed this story. This will help us create more engaging stories for you.